Welcome to this week's edition of our bi-weekly webinar, where we get to bring you up to speed on things that are going on, technological problems, such as muting yourself on a Zoom. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like. And also the things going on in the markets today, things you should pay attention to. So we've got a wonderful full slate today. So I'll get right to it. Our Go Big, or my Go Big to start the day, is a wonderful weekend with my daughters in volleyball. So my last year for my oldest volleyball, and my youngest actually pulled her calf, but she couldn't play, and then she hung out with her team the entire time as well. So it was a full weekend of that. Lots of wonderful family time and lots of observations and conversations. So with that, I'll pass it to, how about Ken?
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Good to be here with all of you as usual. My Go Big is my daughter approached me and she wanted to start running. And so we signed up for our first 10K at the end of April. And we went for our second run last night, and she absolutely smoked me. And she did not want to run together, but she was way ahead of me. And I think she has a unique talent in this thing called cross-country running in far distances. So Zach, I don't know, you might have a challenger here at some point in time. So
That's awesome. The funny thing was, when she first approached Ken, Ken said, "Well, then go ahead." And then he thought she meant something completely different. How about Zach?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. This morning, I'm extremely grateful for the book club that we have through Gentian and the book How to Know a Person. It's been amazing for reflection. Grateful for the wisdom shared by Chris and the clients that have shared that time with us. And it really just brought to light this last week where it talks about different phases of life and different transitions where people are in. And it talks one about the career phase, and it generally kind of implied that it was later on in life. And I'm just extremely blessed and grateful that I feel like I'm in my vocation and calling at a very young age. So very blessed to do what we do and share it with each of you.
Thank you, Zach. I agree, and I wholeheartedly would agree with those who've been on it, the 20 or so. It actually can be life-changing. So thank you. I appreciate that. How about Mike? Man.
Thanks, Zach. And Chris, staying on the subject of, going big, going deep, I am extremely grateful for Giant cups. I have never been more hydrated, no matter which actual brand that you pledge to, whether it's Stanley or Yeti or whoever that's out there. I'm just glad that, that's kind of inspiring that point of the economy and giving us a little bit extra hydration throughout the course of the day. Not grateful for the amount of cabinet space that they take up, but hey, got to make sacrifices somewhere.
Thanks, Mike. It's interesting to see that we become tribal when it comes to our what we drink out of. It's funny. Oh, are you a Stanley, or are you it's so funny. I've seen that happen. It's, I guess, another way to be tribal. How about Ashley?
Thank you, Chris. Today and over the weekend, I am just grateful for grandparents giving my kids experiences that sometimes just their parents cannot provide for them, and quality time with them. So once again, I'm thankful for grandparents. Thank you, Chris.
You bet. Absolutely. Julie, how about yourself?
Thanks, Chris. I actually am grateful for healthcare providers. Our youngest son, Zach, tore his Achilles and had surgery on Monday in Madison. And everything went well. He's recovering nicely at home. So I'm just grateful for the doctors, nurses, and everyone that cared for him during that process. So just a big shout out to healthcare professionals.
Thank you very much. I did have one thought for Mike about the whole drinking and liquid thing as well. In fact, I think if you sneer at, like, they measure all the liquid now. It's, you measure the cord. So what's quite interesting is I found this. If you sneer at any other method of measuring other than the Stanley, apparently you can be held in contempt of court. Yeah, that's good. That's perfect. Anyway, let's hop into this. So today there's quite a bit going on. There's a company out there that's done really, really well in the past few weeks. It's become sort of a meme stock, but it's got some reality behind it. I can't mention any names of individual stocks in this. It tends to be a company who works in certain chips that are really important to AI. But as something becomes very, very, very important to the economy or to everybody's perception of what's going on, it's interesting to watch an entire market when that kind of a security goes up 100 points in a day because of an earnings report, and everybody's waiting with bated breath on something going on. I find that to be a really interesting time. I've seen it before. It's probably my third or fourth cycle of something like this. There was one back in the 2000s. There were several back in the 2000s or 1990s up to 2000. Some even leading up into 2009 and 10, and then a big one that's a fruit. Maybe it's somehow named with a fruit, if you will, that's been popular up to the last few years as well, that's been faltering as of late. You see some of these things, and it's interesting how much time the market spends on those, and then it immediately passes those by. There's a ton of really tiny companies out there, tiny in comparison, who are doing extremely well financially, but their stock price isn't reflecting it presently. There's a concept I want to bring to you called mean reversion, or reversion to the mean, or regression to the mean. There's 4 or 5 different ways to talk about it. I was just recently with 5 or 6 massive CFAs that are, these big operations all over the nation. We were talking about this. And then one was arguing about regression to the mean. No, it's reversion to the mean. We looked them up. It's the same thing. So at any rate, when something is way under where it should be, and it's supposed to be at a certain level over history, it often regresses to the mean. The same thing also happens when something is well above a standard deviation of what it's supposed to be. It also regresses to the mean. So those are some of the things. It's definitely not timing. It's just understanding what it is. There's also a category that we have this year that's we'll talk about a bit later, that we're all surprised about performing as well as it is, I should say. So what's going on in the economy today is interesting. I think there's a presidential election coming. You're hearing all the Super Tuesday, all this kind of stuff going on. Another reason for many people to become tribal. Hopefully we can get away from some of the tribalness of, hey, if you're a different belief than I'm of a different belief, I dislike you. I think it's better to say we have different beliefs, and that's what makes us strong. So some of the things I'll pontificate here are going to be things I've noticed in my own observations over time, but then studied history and facts to back it up. Some of the things I'd say that were most important going on. I'm about to go in a week to Abundance 360. This one is called the Great AI Debate. So it's become so important. Last year, we spent half of the week on it. This year, apparently the entire program is called the Great AI Debate. What's interesting about it, I now know more people in that group who are delving into AI in some format, but many of them are not delving into the large language models and the technology itself. They're delving into the way that it accesses data to make it quicker, the way that it will help a different company or different application do things. It's interesting to see the proliferation of incredible entrepreneurs diving into this with their brilliance to make other people, to make actually our entire economy move up at a wonderful pace and productivity. I think I was reading the magazine Trends just recently. There's a wonderful article. I know you can't get it. It's something that we order, but in Trends, they believe, and also in another, it's a private equity study, which I can't share with you. It's one of the best in the industry. They believe that the biggest productivity increase in history will come from artificial intelligence, not from the technology itself, not from investing in AI, but from what AI can free humans to do. So there is a massive, massive opportunity coming. And for those of you who've been with us for many, many years, you probably 7, 8, 9 years ago heard about artificial intelligence, or you forgot that you heard about artificial intelligence and you just passed it by. Oh yeah, that's great, Chris. Yeah. Okay, Chris is talking about something else. That's neat. But why we bring this to you and why I go there is so that we can see those disruptors who are looking to disrupt the economy, markets, and your family, and we can be prepared. What do we need to do to prepare for that? There's a massive boom coming and a massive bust coming, and they happen at the same time. The bust that I am most concerned with is the bust in human happiness for the last 19 years since the introduction of a little device we all think is very connecting us, very much connected, is not increasing human happiness. There's more unhappiness, more loneliness, there's more suicide across the board than there's ever been, yet we're more connected than ever when it comes to these devices. So as I look at this, I think the most important thing we can do is we're all thinking, oh no, we want to be selfless. We want to be selfless. It's impossible to be selfless. I would just say, let's have less self, not selfless. Let's have less self. Let's do for others. I think we become so ingrained in what's in it for me, because I'm watching everybody else, or maybe we haven't gone out and made those human connections. The thing I'm most interested in over the next 5 and 10 years is becoming better humans. If by 2040, Elon Musk says there'll be 1 billion humanoid robots with chat level AI, GPT-like conversational ability and the ability to use the phalanges, the hands. If there's 1 billion, that's 1 for every 8 people in the world working, doing things for us. What will that mean? How will our families operate? Will you own one? Will you have a fleet? Will you have a Rosie the robot? So look at these kind of things. There's pluses and minuses to it. Never doing the dishes again, but some people may love the dishes. Anyway, I just wanted to go through a couple of different items that are going on with that because it's a huge issue everybody's talking about now, and it scares the hell out of people, and it's with rightly so. It excites the heck out of people, which rightly so. It has both extremes. This may be the single best and worst technology we've ever seen. So we want to stay true with, we want to be there. And those old companies, our analysts are super excited about, because they will use artificial intelligence to put an airplane together better, to predict better what you might want to do when you travel, to show you better clothes if you're shopping online, to have perfect fit on things. This is all the stuff that's coming, I think, that you'll see from artificial intelligence to a store that's already probably near you or happened near you. Or if you go to Lowe's, Lowe's will already use artificial intelligence. I guess I shouldn't mention the name. One of the stores out there will actually use artificial intelligence, if you will, to show you the room with the furniture you want to buy in it and how it looks. So quite interesting here. Well, with that, I think I've gone on. I'm very passionate about this. So I could take all 30 minutes, and I might just do that. I might just keep going here because I think, everybody else has something to say, but that's all right. No, I'm messing with you. Why don't I go to, let's stop. I'll pause on myself, and let's go to Zach's Facts. What's up, Zach?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I heard to your point, I heard a very interesting thing that 5 years ago they would have told all kids to go into computer science because of the AI, and now they're saying that it would be a complete waste of your time because the computers are going to do the programming for us, and now it's about the application of how to use it. So incredibly interesting to see the developments there. Just going through kind of where markets are at for the year. The S&P, NASDAQ, the Russell 2000 are up around 2% since our last webinar 2 weeks ago. We'll just go through all the various indexes. The Dow Jones Industrial Average just up over 2% on the year. Beware again of the points drop when media gives that to us, because the Dow Jones is the highest one as far as price goes, around 40,000. When it's 1%, that's 400 points. That's a normal everyday movement. Even 3% is a normal movement, but that's now 1,200 points. So we get the flashing alert, the Dow Jones down 1,000 points. Just beware of that. Armor your mind for that ahead of time. The S&P 500 right around 6.5% positive on the year. This is the 4th straight month of gains, and really a great year in the first 2 months for the markets. So just beware of volatility. As always, volatility isn't necessarily a bad thing. Volatility is upwards and downwards as well. The NASDAQ, which is 50% weighted towards technology, up just over 6%. The Russell 2000, the smaller size companies, still relatively undervalued, really at a point, especially for small cap growth, since the 1970s. That's up about 1.3%, with a 2% gain in the last 2 weeks. International, about 2.4%, and then emerging markets right around flat for the year, 0.43% positive. Just a few kind of facts to share with you guys as well, or just items we've been hearing about with the emergence of crypto ETFs. Been hearing a lot more again of just the resurgence in Bitcoin, and just to be aware of those. It's starting to get to the fear of missing out point, just like Chris talked about with artificial intelligence. Just be aware of your overall plan when you talk through those, and it'll be really interesting to see how that all shakes out. Since the last webinar, the Q4 2023 earnings is done, and 72% of companies actually beat earnings per share estimates, and over 65% beat their sales estimates as well. So companies still doing very well. And just to touch briefly on the fixed income side of things, the 1-year treasury yielding about 4.9%, 5 years 4.1%, the 10-year 4.19%. And as a reminder as well, if you still have cash on the sidelines or was there for a future purchase, there's still some great money market options currently yielding around 5.4%. With that, Chris, I'll go back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. Before I hop over to Mike's Minute, what I'd like to do is just kind of give you something that, and it's an interesting fact. There's a lot of stuff going on and talking about how green, because one of the biggest issues with cryptocurrencies is how much energy it takes to just mine cryptocurrency. And actually the government's beginning to crack down pretty heavily on that. But that actually reminds me of something too. I guess if you go back, who was the greenest president? Of all the presidencies out there, who was the greenest president? Quite obviously the Bushes. Anyway, Mike, how about yourself?
Oh, okay. Hey, yeah, I'm gonna need a second.
It's all right.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Anyways, following that up, so I want to highlight a few things that Chris brought up, and it's not the Bushes. It's going to be, He made a great mention of, we get all these questions that we hear about and you see, and what makes headlines right now is what's pushing the market. And we talk about that one company that, creates that can help facilitate AI for others. But what gets kind of like lost in the sauce is who's going to use that? And then what can that actually do for them as far as a company long term? And so that's why, from a diversification standpoint, it's incredibly important to own things across the entire spectrum of investments. So that's how, as we're creating strategies, what we're looking at here is how can we use that timeless theme of a diversification to own all sorts of different styles of companies, regardless of what's driving the market right now, so that we can own what will drive the market later. And so beneath the surface, and when you peel back kind of the layers of the portfolio itself and the strategies that we implement and that we recommend, you'll see all sorts of different things behind the scenes. And it might not always be equities. There's different things that can be driven, commodities. There's stuff that's needed to create that will push the economy forward, and all can participate. So when we talk about one individual company or this or that, it really can lift everything else up. That's why, and speaking on one company that they were talking about earnings reports that could have really been detrimental to the market. In fact, the market was reacting very erratically when NVIDIA was reporting its earnings because of how it's done. And then when it came out with a good earnings report, the entire market was lifted up by that. It's so interesting when we get into a lull and we see the earnings season and all of these different things kind of occur, where the market actually finds where it creates its gains and how it justifies when it goes up and when it goes down. So all that being said, a couple trends in the market here. Individual consumers very strong right now. It's something that can drive all of those different companies out there that have the opportunity to use AI to increase their bottom line to do better for themselves. And then the consumer themselves are still spending. And one of the themes, though, that is detrimental and kind of talked about against that is credit cards. Credit cards are sad from an individual standpoint when it comes to being high leverage debt. But when it comes to the market in general, credit cards give a wonderful opportunity for those to continue to stimulate the economy. And that being said, the leverage that a consumer actually has right now is pretty low. So with that all coming into conversation, when we talk about credit card debt, we don't really look at it as something that can be detrimental to the market. If it's something that's affecting you personally or somebody that please bring it up to us. Anyways, back to you, Chris.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that as well. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. And I appreciate you bringing that up. A lot of conversations we have about different asset classes nobody really wants to know about, but really, really, thank you, Mike. I think it's fantastic. So I'm going to drop the mic and we're going to move on to Ken. But before we do that, I wanted to say this morning, it was kind of interesting. I picked up my phone, I was talking to it, and Siri said to me, "Don't call me Shirley." I'm like, what the hell? I forgot. I left my phone in airplane mode. Anyway, how about you, Ken? What's up?
Good stuff, Chris. That's really good. Back to the robots of helping us out around the house. Now, if there's a robot that can pair up socks, I am all for that robot, and I will. Yeah. I'll tell you how it works if it ever comes out. So
Ken, there is, but it's $50,000.
It might be worth it. I'm not sure I can afford that, but it might be worth it. We'll see. Absolutely, for sure. So, a couple of things on the planning side of things. I'm going to Ed Slot here in two short months, and in the middle of May. There's a lot of conversation around leaving an inheritance and receiving an inheritance and all the rules that go on with that, because it's not as straightforward as everybody thinks it is about, hey, I'm just saying, if something happens to me, it's going to go to the kids and everything's going to be fine. Sometimes that is the case. A lot of times that's not the case. So there's going to be a lot of talk around inheritance planning. You'll hear it from us. You've already heard it from us before, but we'll keep talking about these important topics that mean a lot to your wealth and your legacy and things that you want to accomplish with your money and your family. So I'm going to bring up taxes here. We are up in tax season right now. March 15th is the tax date for the last tax documents that you're probably waiting for. Raymond James does a great job trying to make sure that we get everything correctly for you the first time. So March 15th is that last kind of drop date, if you will, for your tax documents. So if you haven't received one yet, or you're waiting for one, it's coming here in about 9 days. You'll be able to receive that piece to finish up your taxes and get that refund, hopefully, that you're looking for. So that's the taxes. And again, when you finish your taxes, please send us a copy. We do ask for it. It's a really good piece that we like to see almost every meeting, because it shows us so much about what you're doing, what's going on. how we can identify opportunities to even better your money for you to get that outcome you're looking for as well. So Mike mentioned something pretty interesting about credit cards. On the estate planning side, and this might be kind of falling under the estate planning umbrella, if you will, or even a direct call to the credit card company. What I'm seeing happening right now, and what our team is seeing right now, is that we've been doing retirement planning for a long time. And so what we've seen now is we've helped you retire. We've seen you live kind of your best life in retirement. And now we're kind of seeing the end of it is when it's a tender topic, but when we lose somebody. And so when this happens, credit cards kind of come out to the forefront to say, okay, what happens with credit cards? Does one person take on the other one? If there's two of them out there, are you actually the owner of your credit card, or are you an authorized user of your credit card? That becomes a really important point to say, okay, if there's only one credit card in the family, and you use one primarily, just one all the time, but one person's the authorized user, how is that going to be able to continue on, or does it? And then so all of a sudden the surviving spouse kind of gets caught. And all of a sudden, like, well, what do we do now? If there's only one credit card, but I was only an authorized user, not necessarily the owner of it, now what happens? Well, then all of a sudden it comes down to credit. And do we have credit because it was in one person's name the whole time? So just little pieces like that to kind of check on. It may sound a little bit trivial right now because we use it and it works, and we scan our credit card and everything works fine and we get our stuff. At the end of it, it can get a little tricky sometimes and a little messy. And I think just paying attention to those little pieces that happen with our everyday life like that, I think will make a big difference for you in the end as well. So with that being said, I'll pass it back over to Chris.
Yes, Ken. I appreciate that. So one of the interesting things too is Mike was talking about, I'm going to hop back to that quick, about earnings sensitivity. Right now, we're seeing anybody who has a pretty positive earnings report, just massive sensitivity, 25, 40% up, 30% up in a stock. Also the same thing on the downside. If you miss or you provide soft guidance, you're down 25%. This is where people get really, really amped up about the latest news, right? When realistically, if you looked at a long-term graph of something growing at 50%, it's probably a pretty good long-term, investment, but people miss that myopically when they're thinking this way. The other thing I wanted to mention was inflation. I think inflation is bad here. Turkey decided to hold its prime rate steady at 45%. Yeah, you heard me, 45%. Their inflation measured year over year is 67%. So I don't know what that means for Thanksgiving this year, but we'll see. With that, I want to bring it to Ashley's antics.
Thank you. Now I'm laughing too, so pardon me. So instead of a money saving opportunity this week, I'd like to present to you a volunteer opportunity. So our Gentian team has paired with the Mitchell Park Domes, and we are going to spring clean up the beds. So as you see here in my picture, those beautiful beds in the summertime that are full of blooms and flowers and greenery do have to be cleaned out in the springtime. So we have a volunteer opportunity for 6 to 8 people. There will be a sign up on Calendly available on our website momentarily. So again, I need 6 to 8 volunteers for anyone that is interested in gardening, just looking for an opportunity to contribute in the community. A couple of our team members will be heading down to the Mitchell Park Domes in Milwaukee on Wednesday, April the 10th. We will meet there at 9:30 a.m. Our cleanup should only take about 2 to 3 hours. So we will wrap up by 12:30. And then we will have provided a beautiful bed and as well as an entry into the Mitchell Park Domes for the rest of the season for 2024. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. And again, that sign up will be available on our website momentarily following our webinar. Back to you, Chris. And I look forward to seeing all the volunteers that are excited to garden with us.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. So speaking of, the greenest president, that actually was quite a nice faux pas. I should have waited till after yours to tell that one about the bushes. At any rate, I wanted to then bring on Julie, who's going to be telling us what we should be paying attention to here over the next few weeks of Gentian. We have a lot of wonderful communications coming from our client experience department. So I'd like to find out what should we be paying attention to, Julie?
Yes, thanks, Chris. Yes, we have a number of different things going on here in March, starting shortly after this webinar from 10 to 3:30. We will have limited office availability as we focus on getting better for you. We will return any calls or emails shortly after that wraps up. Just a reminder that Sunday, March 10th is daylight savings time. So please remember to adjust your clocks unless you live in Arizona or Hawaii. Monday, March 11th is that book club that Zach mentioned earlier, How to Know a Person. So the session will be covering the last couple chapters of the book and then final thoughts on the entire book itself and how it's affected people and helped them. Also on March 11th is our one and only Ken Flannery's workiversary, celebrating 8 years here at Gentian. So congratulations to Ken. Wednesday, March 13th is our March birthday club. So if you do have a birthday in March, we'd love for you to join us. And if you could please email a picture of your younger self, we have a new little twist and fun game for the birthday luncheon this year. So please register by today if you can, and the doors open at noon. Sunday, March 17th is St. Patrick's Day, so everybody get your green on, and spring starts March 19th, so I'm really looking forward to that. Wednesday, March 20th is our next Gentian biweekly update at 9 a.m., followed by our next Ladies and Gentian workshop. This workshop will focus on mindfulness and meditation, so I'm really looking forward to that. So hopefully all the ladies can join us, and that begins at 10 a.m. Central. Friday, March 29th, the markets and our office will be closed in observance of Good Friday. And a great way to wrap up March, Easter Sunday, March 31st. So it's a busy month, and we hope to be able to share a lot with you. Back to you, Chris.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. Just a couple of words, I guess, in closing here is we're grateful for you and the people you introduced to us. You've been giving us a lot of quality introductions lately. And like we say, what we will do is expend our time 100% on you. And thank you for introducing us to good people, for screening out some of the ones you probably wouldn't give to us because maybe they wouldn't be kind. It's up to you and your thoughts. But we really appreciate that. We have a wonderful team here of 6 of us who can help them. We're here to help. I want to make sure you know that. And we appreciate that for you. Your team keeps growing because of your faith in us, your trust in us. And I think your faith, patience, and discipline to stick true to your plan is massive. One thing I wanted to remind you, I think I saw this, I don't watch CNBC for any kind of content, but I see it to see what's going on. Remember this, fear is not a strategy. People are afraid of an awful lot. Fear is not a strategy. Fear is a reaction. Fear is something we hide from. Fear causes more problems than anything else. I just wanted to make sure that was out there as well, because there's fear in 2 different directions. Fear of missing out, that's FOMO, right? And then there's also just fear of what's going to happen. So fear has bidirectional opposition. So fear can have you completely seize up because of 2 different things. Well, what I'd like to do is if you can just break out a little bit from that fear, the only way to conquer fear is to take some action. We've learned this through a lot of the different teachings we've had. So I wanted to give just this little kind of just quick reminder of that. If there's something that's been causing you an issue, a big mountain you see standing in front of you, it could be health. It could be, a fear that you've got of, maybe going out and seeing something, doing something you haven't done. I want to encourage you to take that step and do it. It's a very important thing to growth. And it doesn't matter if you're 94 or if you're 54. It's a wonderful thing. You'll find that doing something new, even if it's not a ton of it, actually is quite refreshing. So I just wanted to remind you, fear is not a strategy in either direction. Fear of missing out or fear of failure. So go ahead, and if you have something that you're afraid of today, take a step and step out of it. Step out of that fear. At any rate, I wanted to say that. Thank you tremendously once again for my entire team. They are wonderful. Today is a Getting Better for You day as well. So we're going to spend some time really working on all the processes. And you might wonder what that is. It's getting and talking about all the processes, the blind spots, the things that we have encountered over the last month that we could really work on to have a better process to be better for you. It could be investing. It could be across the entire board planning. The ideas we share are groundbreaking. A lot of them are also things with ourselves. So this is a wildly important meeting. And I got to tell you, since we've been doing them, watching the acceleration of the growth of this team that you have here that serves you is tremendous. So I wanted to just give you a little bit of an insight into what a Getting Better for You day is and why we have it. It is essential to us being some of the best service people we can be for you. And that's really our main concern. We're not concerned with the industry. We're most concerned with you and serving you well. So thanks for sharing what's important to you. We'll continue to work on that as well. And from the Galactic headquarters here, right in Mequon, Wisconsin, on a beautiful sunny day, I'd like to say thank you from all of us here at Gentian Financial. You have a great rest of your week. I know this is the highlight of the week. It doesn't get worse from here. You can still enjoy it. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of your week.